Thomas is the CTO of biGENIUS automation company. Vincent Diallo-Nort, a senior consultant at Visium. Today we like to chat about how automation can bring data products to life and enable data mesh. Let's first take a step back and talk about what happened in the data landscape and how we used to organize and do architecture. So initially, after Kimball came out, we start to have centralized team, centralized organization for data product. First time it was about bringing the data in a central space. So with Kimball methodology, it was dimensional modeling. You have one process, everything in a fact table, and you can analyze a business process, which was good. We were aligned with the business process from business. Then we get a few hiccups in the way, like having central team was a challenge because it created a bottleneck. So this bottleneck was resolved by having data people directly into business units. So we had a decentralized approach, and each business unit owns his own data as business area. For example, finance will own the finance data, procurement will own procurement data. And that was fine in a way, and as add some benefit. Who's the best to talk and build data analysis of finance than finance people? So it was good for this part. However, it became very complex to create cross-data domain analysis. That was the first issue, is this cross-domain started to be harder and harder, and then we have repeat work. The second thing is business need data fast, really, really quick for them to be valuable. So what they end up doing is going use case per use case. They need this specific data set and they will rush to produce it. Not their fault, they're on tight timeline, so they go through agile or Scrum methodology. They have 2-week sprint. They can't spend too much time on creating quality data set or anything. They just need to rush through. So it creates two more issues. First is development quality. Therefore, we start to create technical debt. And the second one is we repeat work. A lot of things for finance is dependent on procurement, for example, or from product, and everyone will repeat the same kind of data transformation. So we have this issue. How do we solve that? Well, we start to move toward data automation and data mesh architecture. What's data mesh? It's simply creating reusable data asset like Lego brick. We call them data products. So each data domain, they build data project, the one they know the best. Finance will create something, for example, about pricing. Manufacturing may create something about material, and so on and so on. So everyone creates data product in the area of their expertise of knowledge. So a data product, in nutshell, is a little brick that have the code to transform the data, the ingestion, the orchestration. It serves a purpose. It exposes a service for a use case. So if we take, for example, a use case of supply chain for, inventory evaluation, you're gonna need a lot of data product for different teams. And they're gonna expose this data product through data contract in a data marketplace. So this marketplace will be a place where you can find, discover all the data product is available to your company, understand the evolution, because you'll have different versions, some will become obsolete, deprecated. So it allows you to navigate through all these data products and consume them. This is how, in a nutshell, it works. And in order to do that, we leverage data automation to have the same quality everywhere, to comply with the rule of an organization everywhere. So we can have many different teams building with the same quality and with same compliance. As we move into data mesh, there's a few challenges that arose. To name just a few of them, we had more enablement. So in a data mesh, you're gonna have a lot of different small teams. They're gonna be in the business unit, and you're gonna have direct responsibility, direct control of them. So we needed an insurance way to onboard them, giving the same tool, the same practice, same way of deploying. So it's more enablement. We need more governance because it's just different team need sometimes everywhere in the world trying to work with kind of in every place in the world. So you need more of these. So now let's talk about a project we've done on data mesh for a large pharmaceutical company. Regarding this project, the goal was to help this company to create data platform, and this platform is a result. So the company was a result of a merger, two large companies merging together. They want to create a new data platform, and they don't want to end up with same pitfall than the previous one. They want to be use case per use case. They want small team to create data analysis, but they don't want the technical debt they had before with spaghetti code everywhere and this cost rising, this maintenance cost rising. So what we did is we use automation and data mesh in combination to achieve this goal. So let's take an example of what we did. I was talking with supply chain. So this is one example of use case we had, which was about valuation of stock. You can do valuation of stock in different way, for a price, for a cost. But the main thing is you have a supply chain team and need all this information from other team. So they're gonna request and pay the other team to do this data product. So first one was about product. As I say, it's a large pharmaceutical company. So there are 1,000 different sub-companies. Just having a list of material can be a lot of work. And if you're in supply chain and not the product team, you may not know how to do it. So product team will be the best to do that. Procurement gonna provide you information about the cost they actually pay their supplier. Finance gonna provide information price. Sales may provide information about some marketing, discount, and so on. And all together, all smashed together, you have your inventory valuation. And the point of that is, for this use case, we build all these products, but this data product will be reused by other stuff. Like the list of product is something we need everywhere. So it's really good to have it and it become a reusable data asset that bring value for every use case. It's not a technical debt, it's not something that costs you, it's truly an asset. So what did we need for this project? One thing we did want was the ability to start small and grow later. We didn't want to spend months creating button, naming conventions, so on. We don't want this tunnel effect where the business had no idea what we're doing and think we're just spending money. So the idea was to be able to deliver something without having long-term impact. The ability to deliver something, but the ability to correct it without retesting everything, rechecking everything. It comes through the automation. I'll give you more example later. We want the ability to create template, to give some, let's say, best practice, but we also want this best practice to evolve. Like, for example, we use Data Vault, realize we don't know anything, so we want key instance, for example, to have the ability to add more concept as we go without rechanging anything. All these things, we have template we can reuse and change. One more thing is standardization. As I say, we have business team, they're everywhere in the world. I never meet these people, but I want to make sure they comply with the rule we have. So now just want to talk about why we choose biGENIUS to do all this challenge to meet the need of these clients. So as I say, we did need automation. We need strong automation to be able to start small and grow. One of three key points the client requested us was, first, they didn't want the software to touch their data. The data we touched was for pharmaceutical. For example, Boom is super sensitive. Nobody access Boom. Some result of Boom can be accessible, but no one gonna see it. So the software can't touch the data at any point. And the biGENIUS, one of them that can do that. It touches the metadata, you export the metadata from Databricks, but never gonna touch the data itself. So that was one first key point. The second key point, they didn't want to be tied to a vendor. If they want to change vendor, they didn't want to be stuck. So we have a requirement to have open source, open standard, I will say, data metadata store. So, and biGENIUS was doing that. It's YAML file in a Pegasus format, so you can store them and all the software can read it. The third one was tight integration with DevOps. So everything the software is doing need to be reflected in the source control at any point in time. And biGENIUS was one of the only one that was doing that. So that's why we end up with biGENIUS for these three main things. In regard of the expansion of pattern, I was looking to give an example. For example, we have security based on data domain, finance, you only see finance, so on. And then there was a business request to split by use case because of some very specific thing, like I'll say, boom. They don't want it exposed to other part of the business. So we need to recreate a pattern where we can separate the security. And because we can customize your template, we had something that creates some tag on the table and view and controlled by biGENIUS. And when it deploy, you add this tag and the security is managed. So we didn't have to think that ahead. We could add later on. And because it's automation, you know, if you test one, you test all of them, they all look the same. So it allows us to start small and grow as we go. So, and the last thing is the marketplace. Allow our business team there's a lot of them, to go and discover what's available in the product, what the version, how it change and evolve, and self-serve, connect to this data product, request access, this workflow validation. So they're kind of very autonomous. And I'm gonna leave it to my colleague.
Thank you. And also welcome from my side, and thank you, Vincent, for showing us a real life project. Unfortunately, we were not allowed to tell you the name, but as Vincent said, it was a huge company and a huge project, or it is still a huge project. And what I like to show you now is a little bit of biGENIUS, how it is structured, how the data marketplaces can be used in the modeling project. Should not go, the mouse scrolls down. Okay, good. So I will show you the data marketplace and how it is connected with the modeling project, how you can reuse or use the data contract and export, create an additional data contract, how these things are working together, which is basically what Visium was or is doing inside the project. And what we see here, we have a list of data products. It's basically what we saw before on the slides, and a list of sources. So the data marketplace in biGENIUS is a centralized place to manage your data products and also your sources. And for example, when I jump into the data product, we see that we have a couple of SAP system which uses the data for this data product, and the data product provides some data for procurement and sales, for example. And we do that via an output port. So the output port is basically what the data contracts define. So we have here a data contract, a list, one is active, and we can have a preview of it. So we see the model, what is this product consists of. So I see all the attributes, I see also data classification. And if I define it inside the modeling project, I can have a look at example data to see how the data looks like. Is this really what I need for my use case, which I will implement right after? And what we also have integrated is a data governance section. So data governance with AI support, that you can write your data governance rules in natural language, and it will take your sentences and validate it against the data contract. For example, I have two here. The data classification checks if all the attributes except for the default terms, which are coming from us, that they have a data classification or a correct data classification set, and also the naming rule that every term is upper snake case, so that you get an example how to use these kind of data governance rules. And what I like to do, because I got the requirement from the business to create an additional output port for sales. At the moment, when I look into the sales orders, there is no information about the product. I don't only have information about the customer itself, but not from the product. And I'd like now to extend it so that I can use the product data product. It's a funny name, product data product. So I can use the product data product, use it in my sales project, do something, and then export it as an additional output port. And for that, we jump into the modeling project. Here it's also a data vault, and not the data. It's a data vault, but a data vault Databricks project. And the first screen we see, it's the Git integration. Vincent told that, or said that everything is in on a Git repository, and it can also be an on-premise Git repository of yourself, where you can basically manage everything. And also you can create different branches and work together, create pull requests. So let's say normal, typical Git integration. It's basically, in this case, it's GitHub in the background, but also other Git providers are allowed. So when I open the project, we see this typical layer of bronze, silver, and gold. We have on the left side, we have the sources. They are coming, as I said before, from Dynamics 365, from a CRM, because there we have the data from the sales. Then we have a staging layer. We have the core layer. In this case, it's a Raw Vault and Business Vault, because we're using Data Vault. And we have a gold layer, a Data Mart on top of it. And first, as I said, we need to integrate or consume the data contract from the product data product. So I will jump to the data connection and import it from the data marketplace. And because it's the only which is possible, it's already pre-filled, and I can click on next and say, I'd like to take this product information into biGENIUS, just the metadata. biGENIUS is always working just with metadata. And then I can add it to a view, because biGENIUS is working with views that you get your workbench. You can take all the objects which you are working on. That normally in a data warehouse or data products you have much more objects than I have here, of course, so that it gets that you get a better overview. So now we have these product information, we have this customer information, and now I'd like to create an additional object. But first, let's quickly check if this object is the correct one. So I check the data lineage, and I see that here I have all the sales information. And when I jump into it, I see also on the right side here that I have the product ID. So I'm able to connect it to the order table, to the dimension product. So what I will do now is, with our automation step, we call them wizards, you can easily create from an existing object and other ones. So in my case, I'd like to create a Mart fact from this Mart composite. And the Mart composite is a special element which we have here, which is, in addition to the normal Data Vault 2.0 objects, it's a possibility to reuse business logic. And you can also build bridge tables, for example, with it. And so there is a wizard, a guided wizard, and I say I'd like to take over or create a relationship to these two objects. Can define roles, and then I have to map the foreign keys. So it's the customer number goes into the customer ID here, and the product ID goes into the foreign key product, and then I can define which attributes I'm interested in. So in my case, I'm interested in a couple of attributes, because I need this for my output board that others can reuse it. And now it's now created. I see here the object where all the relations are created, all the data lineage is correctly implemented, and I can also jump into it and see it here in detail. What now would happen, of course I could visually show it, but what now would happen is I would build the complete project, export it or deploy it directly, in my case to Databricks, and deploy it to Databricks via a CI/CD pipeline. Of course, I will not do that today, but I can show you that at our booth, of course. What I like to do is export it and make it available inside the data marketplace, because now I created a couple of objects which I'd like to be reused for others. And so I go to exports, say I'd like to push something into the data marketplace, make it available. Let's say it's the branch contract version. Let's take this one, and this is the sales order enriched. Then I can choose the objects which I'd like to export, and from these objects we create the data contract, which then can be reused for others. Now I say, let's take this one. Of course, normally I would rename it that it has a better name, but let's leave it with comp sales header. And then I create the export, and now it's available inside the data marketplace. And when I jump to the data marketplace, go to sales, I see here now the second output port, and you see I played a couple of times to prepare the session. And now here we have the 008 version, and I can also have a look at the model, can of course run the data governance checks against it, and make in this way the data products or the output port available that it can be reused for others. And one point which I forgot in the beginning was we also have, when I jump for example into the product output port, doesn't really matter which one, we also have kind of a workflow integrated so that you have a clear ownership. You can request access for a specific data product that not everyone can access each data contract. And so you get request access. There is a workflow in the background where you can define the reason why I need access to this sensitive data, and then you can allow or decline it. Completely forgot that before. And so that's already it for the demo part. And I'd like to add some key messages for the presentation. And we saw that in the speech of Vincent. Data mesh is a journey. Automation is key, and data products can sometimes or very often be challenging, but I think that's okay. The key is to start small and scale over time. And what really matters is, and this is what Vincent said as well, is delivering fast results. And also for that, automation is key, and of course can be done with biGENIUS. Thank you all for the presentation. If you're interested in the stuff which Vincent said, he will also be at our booth afterwards. Visium is basically an AI consulting company, but of course they always, when it comes to AI, you also build data platforms, or often you have to rebuild them or extend that. And come by if you have any question to the project itself, or if you have anything about biGENIUS. We are happy to show you a more in-depth demo, and not just in some seconds some parts of it. And so thank you all, and have a nice rest of the conference.
Thank you.